This is Capital Views, and I'm Mike Bradner, and we have with us Norm Wooten, who is the Executive Director of the Alaska Association of School Boards. Did I get that sequence right?
Close enough.
And you've been involved in schools a long time and actually worked with the association, but you're new on the job of Executive Director.
Yes, I'm new to that job.
So what's happening?
Well, we're looking forward to maybe a challenging legislative session this year. We obviously, as school board members, believe that an educated workforce is the key to any state solving their financial crisis. Education, obviously, is in the state constitution, is one of the responsibilities of the legislature, and we believe that there is no higher calling than educating your young people and moving them into a workforce to do whatever job that they choose and be the best educated that they possibly can.
Listen to the rancor these days in our politics, but one of the things that Horace Mann, in pioneering a state school system, said, well, good education is necessary to a democracy. And we might shake our heads these days and say, come on, we've got to be better citizens. Well,
yes, and in schools, obviously it's much more than reading, writing, and arithmetic. Obviously, academic achievement is the priority, and that's the focus. But you think about it for a moment, where else do our kids get a chance to mix with people that are outside their parents' social circle? White kids playing and making friends with kids of color, with Alaska Native students, all across our state. We have a huge ethnic diversity across our state, and I know in my own family's situation, it was very beneficial for my children to get to know folks that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise, and they've carried that experience into their lives, and the color
that's
of one's...
where they learn to deal with diversity.
Absolutely. Poor kids, rich kids, kids of color, white kids, they all play together. It doesn't make any difference to little boys and little girls. So I think that's what Horace Mann referred to a lot when he talked about education being the cradle and the voice of democracy. It's where we learn to appreciate each other.
Now, you're starting off with a budget proposal that is acceptable, and there's going to have to be a dialogue.
It is a dialogue. On the one hand, we're very appreciative of the governor of putting forth a budget that treats education very well, while on the other hand, we recognize that a major portion of the state's budget goes to education. We're one of the big consumers of the state budget, and so we're very cognizant that makes us a target, if you would, for those who would and the budget needs to be trimmed according to the legislature, and so we're obviously a target of that, and we recognize that, and school board members want to create a stable fiscal plan. We want the state to prosper as much as anyone else. I think elected public officials, including school board members, are much more aware and educated and understand the dilemma that the state's in. So we want to work with them. We want to become more efficient. We want to create all the efficiencies that we can. We want to share services across districts, and we want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. But we don't think education is a problem. We think it's a civil right, if you would, for young people to be educated.
And our formula expresses that in the sense that it's an equity formula.
It is.
I mean, you try to equalize the money.
And the whole purpose of the formula is to run money through a process that creates equity across the state, no matter where a community or a student is and where they live, no matter what the cost of living is, whether they're on the road system or off of the road system, whether they're rural or urban. The whole purpose of it is to create that equity among school districts, but specifically among students in our schools.
I mean, given that we can create financial equity, there's obviously always things that you have to struggle, like between urban Alaska and rural Alaska, to try to create a really an equitable environment, things that don't fit in a formula.
Certainly. There's so many, there's so many things that you have to spend money on just to run a school that, that are the same across the state. But yet they're very much different depending on where you live in the state. We have such huge disparities in cost drivers across our state. Fuel, transportation, the cost of books, the cost of supplies in a school, insurance cost, all of these things may be very different in one section
And to
in
try to
another
get
section.
students some exposure to the other Alaska, which is urban Alaska from rural communities.
Absolutely. And a big part of the experience is extracurricular activities. I'm not talking just sports, I'm talking all extracurricular activities, and those are expensive, even more so in a rural area.
And a superintendent in some of these rural areas, just to get around and visit their schools, can keep them away from home. I mean, you may fly in someplace and you're going to be weathered in there for longer than you want, longer than your spouse wants.
And a superintendent or an itinerant staff member in a rural district, their slogan might be "Have sleeping bag, will travel," and that's what they do. They jump on an airplane or a boat or other conveyances, transportation conveyances, and travel up and down the school. I was in a school district last week up on the Kuskokwim River, and it's like traveling to another state when you go to some of their furthest schools from the district office.
Norm, we're out of time. I'm Mike Bradner, and this has been Capital Views, and thank you, Norm, for being with us.
Thank you.